Hi, Denise.
Hey.
Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today on the webinar. Would you please introduce yourself and the company, of course, Céleste, a little bit for us to understand who you are and what you do?
Sure. So, yes, my name is Denise. I am CEO and co-founder of Céleste Originals Brands here in the Netherlands. And what we do is we help, what I normally say is we help build your dream. Meaning we have a lot of customers who come to us saying, I've always wanted to start my own makeup line, or I always wanted to create a sunscreen which I could use, but my child could use as well. So that's kind of what we jump in. And we sit together with our customers, defining their strategy, looking at formulations, packaging, branding, and also how they can kind of optimize and put their products on the market in a correct way. We do that mainly in the beauty industry, and we have some wellness customers as well. And then in regards to what I do in the company, so I kind of oversee all the brands, try to get that personal connection with each and one of them, because we feel that's kind of the heart and core of our business, is to get that personal connection, and try to guide my team through the whole development processes. We're definitely also looking to regulatory, because that's a huge part of of cosmetics.
I definitely assume that as well. So the when you go into regulatory or whatever you just mentioned, I bet that regulatory is one of the key components in this.
Yes.
When we talk about regulatory challenges, etc., what do you see as one of the biggest regulatory changes or things that are going to happen in 2025?
I think we've seen some changes in regulatory in 2024, which kind of will go through in 2025, and it's mostly around natural claims. I think the market is ready for some more rules and regulations around what you can claim in terms of natural products. We know that a lot of people and consumers seek for natural products, but literally you can get a bottle of water, say, hey, this is, your new water cleanser, put a label on, it's natural, and then still it's, you claim something's natural, but what is the end benefit for the consumer? So I really think in terms of natural claims, this will definitely be more stricter in 2025, and also everything around packaging. So what we see, for example, with our customers is if we ask what type of packaging do you want, they say we want sustainability. Okay, sustainability, but what does that entail? Because in some countries, they have a super amazing recyclable system where you can recycle your products very well. But in other countries, you can have the best recyclability, but there's no system. So also I think in terms of sustainability and claims around that, and also hopefully, because I think there's a lot of greenwashing, sustainability washing in our beauty industry, probably more rules and regulations will come.
Wow, okay. And then focused on more of the claim validations as well in that.
Yes, correct. So for example, if you have a formulation and you claim it to be natural, I think again that's probably one of the most stricter claims that will be looked into in 2025. You will have to prove what does your natural formulation mean, what can you claim, and what does that claim entail. That also means, for example, what we see a huge increase, and it's been there already, but an increase in anti-acne claims. I think anti-acne means a lot of things, and sometimes products on the market claim to be anti-acne, but in reality, it's the ingredients and the active ingredients aren't at that stage where they really can claim anti-acne. So probably you will need a lot more tests. Consumer tests or clinical researches to prove your claims.
Okay. And I take it for claim validation, many brands are actually struggling a lot with cosmetic claims in particularly. Do you have an example of a successful regulatory strategy or something like this?
Yes. What we always advise all of our brands, either new, existing, or just try it in their growth kind of stage, is make sure regulatory is part of your first component in your strategy. So don't look at regulatory or compliance when you have already finished your product and finished your ID, because sometimes you can come up with such a cool, innovative idea, and you have in your mind, hey, I want to claim, for example, anti-aging, but then you cannot make that claim because there isn't any like substantiation of that claim. So if you kind of make that part of your first initial brainstorm about your product, then you can contact the right person, because often brand creators or founders, they're very creative. They have a lot of good qualities, but regulatory and compliance is often not one of them, because it's something different. So if you think of that at the beginning, attract or hire somebody who is really a professional in regulatory and compliance, you are sure that you're not going to invest all your time and money in a product that in the end you cannot sell because you have no.
Wow. That would be horrible.
That happens. Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, jumping a little bit here then, for global compliance, because that might, for any brand, a global compliance strategy, because of rapid globalization, how do you see the regulatory frameworks aligning? You mentioned it's more or less the same as in 2024 as in 2025, but what is it like in key markets? How would you see this in like EU or US and Asia?
You mean differences or more overlaps between those?
Well, the overlapping, how do they overlap, or how do they, well, differentiate? Maybe a little bit both.
Well, luckily, and that's also when we got a briefing from a customer and they say, I want to create this, but it has to be safe and it has to be in line with certain rules. We always say in the time where we are now, 99% of the products are good, because it's very difficult to sell bad products, because in every territory there are the same basic principles. So in terms of beauty formulations, you cannot, if you just go to a good manufacturer, to a manufacturer that has a factory, I think that's the base. If they don't have a factory, I would definitely ask my questions, but if they have a factory, they're likely already doing a lot to be compliant with their territories. What we see is that we always say EU is most strict. That's true up till a certain point. So they are strict in terms of labeling, transparency, but also putting your products in the CPMP portal, which is a portal where you register all of your formulations. After UK had their own Brexit, they kind of implemented the same system. So UK and EU are very much aligned. But then when you look at sunscreen, because sunscreen is a different one, here in Europe and UK, it's considered, for example, a cosmetic product. But when you develop a sunscreen you want to sell in the US, it's a different story, because that's a medical product. So in terms of regulation and compliance, you need to have different testings, you have different researchers, a different registration team, but also a different budget. And I think that's also something that a lot of brands and brand founders are surprised with, is the amount of money you kind of need to budget in for your product registrations, if it's in US for more medical products, or if it's in the UK, EU for example, electronic or devices.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, let's look a little bit into the innovations and regulatory practices now. As you know, everybody's using advanced technology now. Let's say, what role does AI or data analytics basically play in the regulatory compliance, particularly with product claims, etc.?
Yeah. So I am in the office. I'm considered, even though I'm 35, as a boomer. So meaning everything technology and AI, I'm always behind. That said, I think regulatory and compliance and the companies that are specialized in this, they are a little bit the same as me. Meaning in their own kind of structure, they still work as they have worked for multiple years. But that's if you are a brand or a brand founder, or you're the marketing team or the MPD team, you can use AI in a very efficient way to test and check if there's research behind the ingredients, for example, that you want to incorporate in your product. So normally you would really rely on your lab or your regulatory person to help you choose certain ingredients or make sure the ingredient kind of matches your claim that you want to make. But now to AI being there, you can definitely check it yourself. So kind of like that first step is something as a brand that you can do definitely in-house by yourself.
So it speeds everything very much up, basically.
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good trend to have in 2025.
Yes.
So when we look ahead, let's say the trend for future and defining the future of cosmetics and beauty packaging, regarding sustainability or consumer safety or traction, what do you see happening here?
So in terms of innovations, formula-wise, I would say we will see a lot of green natural ingredients coming up made by labs. So mimicking natural ingredients and making in a lab, so you can kind of sustain your natural source, but kind of get the same benefits as you will get in from your natural product. So that's what I would see in formulations. I also see more innovations coming into the sunscreen area because people know they have to use sunscreen, but unfortunately there are still a lot of white thick creams on the market that are unnecessarily very aesthetic to wear. So sunscreen for sure. In terms of packaging, we definitely see it going more towards sustainability. Also transparency in your full chain, because that's something that we always tell our customers. You can be super sustainable in your formula, you can be super sustainable in your packaging, depending on the region where you want to sell. But if you fly in all of your products from Asia to Europe or Asia to US, where then everything you kind of do on your formula and packaging doesn't make any sense if you fly in your product. So I also think the consumer expects more transparency from brands in what is your kind of like full cycle and your full chain of sustainability.
Of course, yeah. Okay, well, final question. Is there any piece of advice that you would like to share as a wrap-up, let's say?
Yeah, we always say in Dutch, and it's a very Dutch saying, so I'm not sure if this translates very well in English, but the when you start properly, that's half the work. Meaning, if you do your due diligence in the beginning, you will definitely benefit from that longer term. Also, very important, we all can check the internet, what you say. We can all use AI, but please just work together with a third party who is a regulatory expert. So that means that you still overlook everything in compliance, but they will be responsible for getting any questions from authority. They're responsible for getting you as a brand to know exactly when you need to change your formula in 1 or 2 years. So even though it's a cost, it's an extra cost, please budget it in, because it will definitely help you just make sure that you get your timelines, get your product launched, and don't get like any authorities on your back. Yeah.
Very good, very good. Okay, well, I think we've got it, Denise. Thank you so much for your time. I liked talking with you very much, and we'll see you the next year. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye.